Hi, I'm Kiki,
And I'm Kemi.
and you're listening to
Your Advisors Will See You Now, a podcast that will help you to figure out all of your options for life after high school.
Hey everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Your Advisors Will See You Now. We are recording one of our After the Degree series episodes. That's how we say it. But our After the Degree episodes are just conversations that Kemi and I have. Sometimes we invite friends, but just conversations that we have about life after the degree, primarily after college, but we talk about things after high school too. But it's just topics that we discuss, things that maybe we've experienced in careers and college or things like that. So today is more of a life one. I don't think we do too many we have done a couple, but today we're talking about just unexpected things that happen in life. So this may be like more of a heavy hitting one. I don't think it'll be tears, but this is more of like a heavy hitting topic, just about and Kemi was saying it before we started recording, like when you're younger, your parents can kind of shield you from like big events, like life events, whether it's like losing a loved one or maybe your parents were like, lost their jobs or like house was foreclosed. Those are things that they kind of like shield you from. Like like something's going on, but you're not really aware. It's just like help you to move on quickly. But when we get older, these are things that we have to kind of take care, like cope with, deal with. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In the first
ourselves.
person, I guess you could say.
Whether you've experienced, or I know we both have, you experience like unemployment, or you've experienced, as you're older, losing a loved one, and you have to deal with it like kind of on your own kind of thing. So that's what we're talking about today. So a little bit more of a heavy hitting one, but it's realistic. So it's reality, I should say. These things happen, so that's why we wanted to just talk about life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, before we started recording, I started thinking back to, I forgot what class I was in, and we were studying like a piece of literary work, and it was basically the underlying theme of it was when you're young, that we tend to have this thought of it's not going to happen to me. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, these bad things do happen, but it wouldn't happen to me. I think the story was this guy who was, it was like in maybe like the Civil War or something like that, and he was very young, and he was coming to gripes with the fact that I think like one of his friends had passed away, and the current situation that he was in, and he was saying like everybody marches out, and you have this thought of like it doesn't happen to me, but then he was going through this kind of grief when he lost one of his friends. And it just kind of made me think about all these things that we're going to like discuss about today in terms of the unexpected things that happen, because there's times in our life where we're going to experience discomfort, and mostly in grief. And I think of maybe there's some times where you kind of know a grief. For example, like when I left college, I kind of felt I went through a tiny bit of grieving, because I've done this thing of the 4 years, going to school, hanging out with friends all the time, and it was a transition because I'm leaving something, But I knew this was going to happen. But with other things in adulthood, it's more unexpected, so I feel it hits heavier. So, for example, like one of my friends right now, it was a really bad health scare, and they found that she had cancer in the same spot that her dad had, and her father had passed away from it in high school. So now with that kind of realization of how serious it was, I mean, still she had surgery, so I'm not gonna say her name, but you know who you are if you're listening to this. But she's back home now. But through that whole entire process last year, that was terrifying. It was like her dad, went through the same thing, and she was gonna have to undergo the same entire surgery and everything for the cancer. And it really took me for a shock, because we've been friends since kindergarten. And so you just don't think of these things, as you're going through your day to day, you're going to work, you're dealing with the things that are just in front of your face at the time. And those things really hit, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is a part of adulthood. This is a part of growing older. I mean, yes, we've experienced those things too when you're growing up, not as frequently. But even speaking with my in-laws, and they're much later in the life, like past retirement, and discussing about friends and like how
Mm,
they've passed, due to certain health things and just death in general. And it's something that you have to unfortunately come to terms with, of like, oh man, like the one thing that everyone has in common, unfortunately, is
right.
we're all gonna die.
Yeah.
And I laugh, guys, because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You're probably like, why is she laughing? Because it's uncomfortable. Like, but yeah, that's just something that we all have to unfortunately deal with, and most of it is
Mm,
unexpected, or even if it comes from a health illness, that illness when it first comes to your attention, it's
yeah.
unexpected, so you're having to grapple with that.
Or sometimes it's just
You
like
know.
literally unexpected. Like no, like people pass away, and you're like they were fine. They were fine. Like I just
Mm,
my from my old job, somebody, and she had just like retired last year, I think it was, but she passed away, and it was just like
mhm,
what, like and it's like you think when you like, oh, I just saw them and they looked fine, they looked healthy, and then you hear that, so it
mhm,
can be unexpected health scares, but it can just be also unexpected. Just I would have never thought because when I saw them 2 weeks ago, they looked
right.
fine, but it is like you said, we all have one thing in common. We're all gonna die one day. Um, prayerfully everybody spending eternity with Jesus. That's our prayer. Throw that in there.
Yes.
But
Uh,
yeah, it is.
but yeah,
Go ahead.
it kind of, we should have like worked our
I
way
know we
into
just
this
went.
instead of left death for last. We have other things
Look, get
on
it out.
this
We'll
list.
get it out the way
We
now.
should
Like I
have
said,
worked.
and what I'm gonna say too. You said you like laughing. It's uncomfortable, so maybe we get this out of the way first, and then we get to the other
Yeah.
unexpected life things. We're jumping in. We're just diving in, guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're diving in. Promise it will get a little bit lighter. But when in terms of those things too, though there's like a sadness in it, it also kind of makes you think to like your life and the moments and the minutes that you have right now and what you can do to make it worth it, to what being purposeful in it, what life looks like to you, and how you're going to
Hmm.
take advantage of it. Because we can live day to day sometimes, and time just goes
Hmm.
by. And there's definitely many times where when I used to have like a long commute to work, where I was like, I'm just living to get through the Monday to
Yeah.
Friday to enjoy my weekend. But having that mindset made the months go by so much faster, and I feel like it
Hmm.
robbed me of time. And if I could go back in time, I'm in a much better workable
Yeah.
space now to make more meaningfulness of my time working remotely. So that's definitely a
Yeah.
big change for me. But having that mindset back in the day made it go by fast, and
Yeah.
not in a
Hmm.
good way, because I felt like I really wasn't enjoying the Monday through Friday all the time, because it was like 10 hours out of my week. I wasn't having time to do things that I found fulfilling, like working out, like taking things
Hmm.
like for my health. That stuff is important. With the taking time for relationships with people around me. My commute was so long that I wouldn't really want to hang out after work or go
Yeah.
out to dinner with someone, because it's like I have to get up, rinse, repeat, like every day, like getting it's like timing was of the
Mhm.
essence. So, but when you're faced with unexpected grief, with health scares and deaths, it really does force you to sit and see where you are right now in life and where you want to be. And if, uh, you know, is that satisfying you right now? Are you getting some kind of fulfillment from that? I know where I get my fulfillment um, from in my faith, but for some people that looks different. But it's like, what does that look like for you?
Mhm.
You know, it makes you realize
Yeah.
what's important.
And you're saying that I feel like a lot of people after the or during the pandemic, that was made more apparent. People were like, "Oh," because most
Hmm.
everybody was home, and you had that time to like, if it's chill or go work out during the day because we were all working from home. Not everybody, but like I said, overall, or the majority of people worked from home. So you had that time to do what you wanted to in your day. So I think, going back to, if we call it normalcy, after, I guess, post pandemic, people thought about those things, the things that make them that fulfilling, whether that's family, and maybe they're like, I'm working less, or I'm going on vacation more, I'm taking more days off. It's just I know that was for me. I was like, why do I work so much? And because I didn't take time off, because you're home for the pandemic, and I was like, I don't need to take time off. I'm home. So then when we're back to work, I prioritize taking days off, taking weeks off sometimes because I had also accumulated so much time. But I think a lot of people, just like you're saying, found more value in family or friends or self care, like just taking time for what really mattered. So, even in a very tragic 3 years that we had, that was some good out of it. I think people just realized what's meaningful. And I hope, like I said, now we're kind of back to like it's not normal, but back to we're going into work for the most part because every company has not gotten on board with fully remote work, but that's okay. But I hope, people still kind of take hold to taking that time to be with your loved ones and, taking time for yourself. Because it's easy to be like, okay, well, I'm back in the office now, and you just go back to that same routine. And I could probably say I'm probably guilty
Routine.
of that too. But like you said, like when you have the time, if you do work from home or you have the time, maybe you don't have to, maybe you go in the office every day, but you don't have to work. You can, make your hours a little bit shorter. You have more time to come home and, decompress or be with your family, things like that. And I think that's what I've realized. I'm like, I don't have to be here all day, and I don't want to be here all day. So if I can leave work, if I can come in early and leave early, I'm like, well, now I have more time to be at home. Whether that's just time for myself or time to hang out with my mom and the dog, whatever that is. I agree with you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What's another unexpected event that you feel can pop up in adulthood?
Well, I think the most recent thing and things that we talked about before, and I know we're talking about again, but like I think for me, and this is a lighter topic, so not heavy, but like just change in like your career. I know for me, I
Mm.
really thought I was gonna be an advisor for the rest of my life, or like working with students for the rest of my life. Like if you asked me on May 1st, 2018, and I started my last job, if you asked me like, oh, you think you're gonna be gone from this job in 5 years? I would have been like, no, I'm gonna be here for 15 years. I would have never imagined that I would not be working there anymore. So I think just the what was unexpected for me was just like the change in passion or like the burnout. Like I had never really experienced burnout before until the
Mm-hmm.
last 2 years. So whether so I would say like career changes are can be unexpected. Because I've never, thankfully, prayerfully not like I've never been fired before, but just like to like change jobs. They're like, oh, your contract ended, and it's like, well, this is it. I didn't have another job lined up, but that was the end of my contract, so
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't unexpected. But I've been in a place where I think
Yeah.
unemployment is unexpected. Um,
Yeah, I'll share my story on that one if you want.
you can go ahead.
Um, so there was one of the campuses that I worked on, that I worked at, it was my first time in actually higher
Hmm.
higher education. There were several different campuses of the place that I worked, and the numbers and
Yeah.
enrollment were not doing well. And we knew that it was going down, but the president was always like, there's some new things we want to implement. We're going to try to get more people in these seats. We're going to reshape the admissions. Da, 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 da. Well, we all go into the all-purpose room. Everybody's in there. The president steps on stage and he says the
Hmm.
campus is shutting down and layoffs are going to happen starting today. And that was definitely the most
Yeah.
unexpected thing
Yeah. Of
I've
course. Hmm.
ever experienced, because the office that I was in too was such a good
Hmm.
group. We did so much for the students with so many different activities. I really had
Hmm.
great coworkers, and the campus that I worked at, they really did a lot
Yeah.
for like growth as well. Because I remember working in the education department as like a coordinator, and then my boss at the time, shout out to Kelly, I love her. She's still like a huge role
Hmm.
model in my eyes. There was a position that was open for student advising. And I did want to be a student advisor, but I was in that coordinator role for like maybe just a year. But she came to me and she was like, "Hey, I just want to say I love the work you do here, but I see you doing so much more." And she encouraged me to apply for that job. Like, that's how great of I
Yeah.
love like my coworkers over there. But that day it was like, starting today, we have to let people go. So it was just like boom. And then one person from each department got pulled. And I was the first one from my department because I knew it was going to be me first. I knew it was going to be me because I had students that I worked with we were all student advisors, but we also had something else that we had to work on too. So I was student advising and residential students. So it was like, if we're not going to get any more students in, then we're not going to necessarily be able to cover residential either. And the other ones that we had were more important because we had an advisor that does all the scheduling for classes. And another one did, we had veteran students. So we needed her for doing all like the payment plans, but not to bore anybody. But anyway, so I was so shocked, you know, it was, you wake up in the
Yeah.
morning, you go
A
to
normal
work,
day.
and it snowed the day before too. And mind you, we're all like, we didn't even get, we were all like, they
A
didn't
snow
even get
day.
us, a half day as soon as it come in. We're like, they made us all come in here. And yeah, because
Yeah.
there was a reason they were letting us go like that day. And that one was a bit of grieving
Yeah, of
because
course.
first, that was like my first, I worked at my mom's early learning center as a program coordinator and stuff like that. But this role was my first role like outside
Yeah.
of that, not being in a family run business. So I felt for me that was more quote unquote of an official job for myself in my mind. And I also learned, I was like, if these organizations go south, you're gonna get cut. Like, what can I do to magically wave a wand to keep you? You know? So that for me was like, you can be here today, gone tomorrow. And even though it wasn't like malicious, it was just a reality set for me too, to think about things in terms of work, because you have some people that literally run themselves into
Yeah.
the ground for work. And if they're going to close, they're going to let you go. So you need to learn to establish some work-life balance for yourself too. I'm not saying stick it to the man, get paid, don't do your work. Don't do that because that's just silly. But there has to be a means of like work-life balance that you're not, robbing from everything else in your life and from your mental, from your family. You have to have a good balance with work and getting your work done and doing it
Yeah.
productively, because you also can't pour from,
Yeah.
an empty cup. But anyway, that was just it was tough because I just didn't see it coming. So it's like, I wake up the next day
Yeah.
with no alarm on a Wednesday, and and I'm a forecaster. I plan things ahead of time. So for this just to be like, so for that to happen, I'm just like, whoa, yeah, I started applying, but I'm
You're in
still just
shock.
like, I woke up, I'm just drinking my coffee, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm in shock. I'm like, dang. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
that really just happened? Like, did that really happen? Like,
Yeah. No, for
you're
sure.
lying.
No, I
Like,
mean,
you're
like,
lying.
that is a shock. Like,
It was
mine was
definitely a shock.
like, is not comparable to that at all. So, yeah, like, unemployment, because like, even mine, like, I knew it was coming, but I still really didn't like, I don't think I like knew what to do just because I was like, I'm not a forecaster. But like yours, like, that's actually unexpected because you were going to work to go to work and then they call you in. Um, so like, that's
Yeah.
actually unexpected. But I guess there's different like types of unemployment. Like there's different reasons why we were unemployed. Like yours was you were laid off. I think my company was more just being like nice. And it was only two of us that were being like they ended our contracts just because it was a contract position kind of thing. But there's different types of unemployment. So like yours was like you've been laid off. I think my company was being nice to us. They're like, okay, well, you're done here because you've like, you've run your course kind of thing. We're gonna give you unemployment. But I think just like also the period of unemployment is just like I don't know what to do. Because I feel like for me, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I guess I still don't. But
We need to do a whole episode on just unemployment in general, because that's definitely a difficult season that people go through. I know it's difficult.
yeah, no, for sure. But I mean, yeah, I've thankfully haven't been laid off before. But I know you went through that, and I experienced you go through that. I experienced that at my last job. Like seeing people be laid off, and it's just like a really horrible concept. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, like I said, I haven't felt it before, but it's like you feel for the people because so like, I remember at my last job, they were like,
Yeah.
"Oh, we're going through this, go through a reorganization of the departments, but no one's getting fired." And they said that. I mean, I don't know if somebody recorded it. It was in the minutes, but they said that. And then like 2 months later, no, it was sometime later. Like I will remember. I remember this because we were like walking out of the building, and one of the deans who had been there for 20 plus years, she was like, "It's been nice working with y'all." And we were like, "Huh?" And she was like, "Yeah, like they cut all the
What?
deans," and it was like it just happened to be in February,
Wow.
and so it was already a short month. And so I think it was February. It was like February 28th, and she was like, "We're done. We're done tomorrow." We're like, "We're done on the first," and it's like
Mhm.
like it's not even like you get 3 more days in the month. It's like no, the first is tomorrow. I just was like, I just
Ooh.
really felt for them, especially like people who had like
Yeah.
put in a lot of time at a company, and you just cut them. People four deans just got let go.
That's pretty
Mhm.
wild because I'm also like, those people are really, really high
Doesn't
up.
happen to anybody.
And who's gonna transition their workload? Everybody underneath them is just gonna be miserable because they don't know what the heck they did and they have to tackle what it is, especially
That's
in
what
higher
happened. That's what
ed,
happened.
man.
And that's a
Like,
good point.
when someone leaves, especially in higher ed, it's like, "Oh, shoot, well, wasn't she also supposed to be on this committee to see if the student could still
Mhm.
stay in the college? Wasn't this person also in charge of the probations? Well, what's the student that was on like, well, she was also arguing with this parent for this big, long thing. Who's
Yeah,
taking
you're
care of
right.
that now?
And I never thought
Who
about
does
that
that?"
because I mean, I wasn't.
You know?
It wasn't going to be an advisor or like anybody in a regular student staff. It was going to
Mhm.
be a director or some associate director or assistant director below them. You're right. I never thought about that, but it's just the concept. And even I can get on LinkedIn, and it's like every 1 out of 10 posts is somebody saying they've been laid off, and especially in the last year.
Mhm.
It's just horrible to see. And it's like people, it takes a lot of like courage for people to post like I've just been laid off. Like if you can help me, please. I mean, I think it takes a lot of courage because somebody could just be like, "Oh, I got laid off," and not you said like you were applying, like you were applying the next day, but it's still like you're still trying to wrap your head around things. But it's like you
Mhm.
have to apply because that's your livelihood. And it's like yeah, you may get a
Livelihood.
little. You may get unemployment or like a severance package, but that's not going to last for a long time. You have to find another job. So it's like
Mhm.
it's the shock of it, but I'm sure also I got to pick my life back up and figure out how to get back on track. And some people maybe some people
On
may be like,
track.
well, I'm going to travel. But other people are like, no, I gotta, I gotta work. It's just a,
Yeah. And the average too, we're definitely gonna have to do another episode, a separate episode of
yeah.
unemployment, but I think it's the average person lands a job in 6 months.
Mm. It's a long time. That's a long time.
That was actually me. Yeah. I'm not gonna
Yeah, we
dive into
can.
that. We'll
Yeah, we
talk about that for
definitely
another
can.
episode, but that was actually me once
Yeah.
I left. Yeah. But, it was
Mm.
literally 6 months late to the date. I was like, "Oh my goodness," but
Yeah.
we'll jump into that another day.
But yeah. So
Um,
mhm.
another You go in. You go in. You guide the ship. You tell
Oh
me what's
no.
next. What we discuss.
Well, the another thing is just growing up. Like I feel like I still feel like I'm a kid. But just like watching your parents get older is kind of unexpected. It's like I was saying in the yeah, I don't.
I don't like
Well,
it.
I don't like it either. I've kind of come to reality like um she's not diagnosed, but I can definitely see like a cognitive I won't say, but like cognitive decline. I'm definitely like the head of this household right
Mhm.
now. Like I don't make the like my mom thankfully she can pay the mortgage still. Her funds pay the mortgage, but like I clean, I cook, I get everybody up, I take care of the bills. It's just like it was just like a very big shift, something that I'm still like adjusting to, but it's just
Mhm.
like thankfully I feel like I've come to terms with it. Like it's just a part of life, but it sucks. But it's like watching your parents get older is not it's not fun. 'Cause you just I don't know, it's like we are young, but I know my mom had me when she was older too, so I just have an older parent. But it's like it's something you don't like. We
Mhm.
were saying in the beginning, there are things that our parents can shield us from, but this is not one. This is not something that
Yeah.
I've been prepared for. So it's just like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
you're in charge now.
Yeah. The craziest thing that I've noticed was I remember being younger and looking at my mom, and she would get frustrated with my Nana at a couple of things, and just being like, "You need to
Yeah.
treat Nana nice. I don't know why you're getting upset at Nana." And now that I'm older, I'm like, "Oh, holy crap, yo! I see myself getting
Yeah.
frustrated with my mom, like how my mom
Dude.
was with my Nana. Like my mom, just some of the things that she does. I'm like, Mom, let me handle it, please. Just let me do it. She's sitting here, like, like we'll be like she always has to like if we stay over to visit her, like she'll like take everything out, take all the plates out, all the forks and spoons, the salt and pepper, like for breakfast in the morning. I'm like, Mom, we got like stop it. Why are you staying up till midnight to just she just loves my uncle calls it nesting. Like she
That's a
just likes
pregnancy thing.
picking things, putting things like she puts things like rearranges everything a million times, then she's talking to herself, and then she's like literally then she's you hear her like shifting like, Mom,
Yeah, my
please
mom was like that too then. Okay,
sit down.
that's what they do, I guess then. That's what my mom does too. But it's like, yeah, always like you're right, like rearranging the same things. And then she blames the dog. I'm like, he don't know how to put shoes in order. Like he did not do that. But but you're right. It's just like
Ugh.
that is funny. That is funny. I guess I can say that too. Like, be nice to my nana. And now I'm like, if I had a kid, they'd probably be like, be nice to my nana. I'm like, just mind your business.
I'm like, I'm
I really am
trying.
like,
I love my mom. She's driving
and
me
that's
nuts.
and I live with mine.
But she's
Yeah. So I think
so
that's I just
yeah. My mom is so well intentioned, but it's just
yeah.
and I think too a piece of it is I think it's me reconciling with myself that I see the oldest in
Mhm.
her too, and I think that's where the frustration
Yeah.
is. And it's
That's
like I just don't want to see it. I think that's how that's
that's
showing
like that's
itself
a great
too.
description of it. It's like it's like things that are like common me. I know I have an issue with this. I'm like very much about common sense. And not to say I have common sense all the time, but when I don't see common sense, it really frustrates me. So things that are like very difficult for her to do, I'm like, it's so simple. I'm like, it's right there. It's like where? It's just a lot of yeah, it's just
Mhm.
you're right. Seeing the oldest in your parent or
Mhm.
parents, it is kind of scary. And I remember somebody church mom like handed somebody a check and he was like, I just want to let you know that she handed me a check and I don't know why she gave this to me, but I think there's something going on. And I was like, I know. He's like, you don't have to be embarrassed about it, but he's like, you're gonna have to grow up really quickly. And I was just like, no. No, I don't, but I am. And it's just like a lot. Like
Mhm.
I did not, it's unexpected because I was like, oh, I'm just gonna live at home and kind of coast. That's what I really expected, but it's not that. It's like becoming a parent, and this is not what I planned for at
Mhm.
this big age. But I just did not plan for this, and I definitely have moments of like, why me, God? But I know there's like to bring our faith into. I know there's like a purpose and a reason for this, and I just pray for patience. I just pray for patience because I'm like, it's not there every day, and I know
Mhm.
that's really all. Like you you just want your parents to have their dignity and their independence still, and that's really all I try to do. Um, Seeing your parents get older, like you said, the oldness in them and like the kind of decline in certain things. Yeah, it sucks.
Mm.
It sucks for sure, but
Mhm. Yeah,
it
that's
is.
part of adulthood. I had no idea she really had to deal with, and none. Um, Another thing, kind of unexpected in I think is it a little unexpected in adulthood? Like maybe like relationships and relationships. I think
Mm,
some people change, but not in a bad way. But like, I was listening to this guy. I was listening to this YouTuber responding to another video on
those are my
YouTube.
favorite.
This guy thinks. Um, and the guy was basically saying how he had close friends, but then like a lot of his friends ended up moving
Mm,
away. And I think maybe some of them used to game, but they didn't game as much anymore. So their interest had shifted. And then also some of them
mm,
had kids. So it was just naturally like there wasn't much left
yeah.
to bond with. And I guess naturally there just wasn't enough time sometimes too to invest in that because they're also not there. So it became more lackluster, but not in
Mm,
a negative way. Um, but they still had like good friendships. I guess one of them would just like kind of faded off, but it really hit him when he ended up splitting with his
Mm.
wife. And then for him it was like, whoa, like who am I gonna talk to? Like, like now it's like, oof, that's a rough one. And that's actually something too, is some people
Yeah.
experience splitting up, whether it be boyfriend and girlfriend
Yeah.
or marriages, and that's unexpected for one of the other people. Well, sometimes for
Yeah, exactly. For one side, it may be, and I've seen a friend go through a divorce, and it's just rough. Like it's rough to be on the sidelines because it's like, well, what do you do? Because
Mhm.
it's not only like the emotional toll and the toll on the kids, but it's expensive.
Mhm.
It's like very expensive
Mhm.
to separate and divorce.
Mhm.
So you're absolutely right. Like relationship
Yeah.
changes. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes it's like not bad. Like if it's like a friendship, sometimes I've heard people say that friendships are like breakups. Like they can be very devastating. Absolutely. Sometimes it's just like
Mhm.
we grew apart, and I feel like that's okay. If it was on like good terms and it was like
Yeah.
mutual, and not to say that you'll never be friends again or you're not friends now. It's just maybe we don't. You say we don't have the same interests or time, but I feel like you make time for what's
Mhm.
important. And time can look different for everybody. It's not like, maybe you used to
Mm.
hang out 5 times, 5 days out of the 7 days of, in the week. Maybe you hang out once a week or once a month. Like, it's like, if you can still keep that ongoing, I'm like, okay, that's not
Mm.
a negative. It's just we have different priorities now.
Yeah.
But there's some
That's a good
times where
point.
like friendships they are like breakups because it's like, this is my best friend and we don't talk at all, like at all. And that can be very devastating. Or like, the your
Mm.
spouse, you divorce a spouse. So there are devastating relationship changes. But I'm not opposed when it's like, okay, we're just grow apart and maybe we need time from each other as a friend. I feel like those are okay too. Some people just change.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even want to like ever want to understand what it's like for divorce, like, because now being on the end of being married and living with someone every single day, and that person is like that's my
Right.
bestie for benefits. That's my, you know. So that I can only imagine how devastating that is for people waking up and doing life with this person
Hmm.
every single day, and then that total peace
Yeah.
is just removed. Whether it be, heaven forbid, death, or whether it was divorce. Like that's just traumatic, and even if you have children, that's like a whole
Hmm.
another layer of things. Um, like it's crazy too. And I remember learning this in like personal development psychology when I was in college. It was something along the lines of children do better if the parents divorce younger versus
Yeah.
if they divorce older. And I was like, I don't understand it, but it's crazy because my parents divorced when I was 6. And so my reality was adults just
Hmm.
do that. If it happens, it happens. Even though I'm not for divorce, I'm like, there's some reasons that
Yeah.
people need to, but I'm like, hopefully if you can keep it together, and then, that'd be amazing. Um, but when I was younger, that was the reality of that's what happens.
Hmm.
That was my norm. It was rough as a kid, but that was the norm. And then from there on, it would be different holidays. I would just go to my dad would come over for Christmas morning, or I would go to his family at the end for Thanksgiving, my family for the beginning, da 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 da.
Yeah.
Like that's just the
Yeah.
norm. Versus I had a friend who her parents, they divorced. I think we were in college and she was
Mm.
taking it rough. And it almost surprised me because I was like, in my mind, again, at 6, my reality
Yeah.
was that's what happens. So it really was hard for me to like really see how like difficult it was for her. Like really seeing that, I was like, oh my gosh, like wow, like because you gotta think about all those years
Mhm.
they spent together with
Yeah, of
holidays,
course.
in the same home, building the same
Mhm.
traditions together, and now that's gone, and now you're here in college, and you're having to resume and figure out, "What do I do with that? How is my place in that?" Now I have 2 parents, and, the human side always wants you to pick a side, which you
Yeah,
shouldn't,
yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. I
So,
mean, I can imagine,
it's
like, things are easier when you're
devastating.
younger, and that's another thing, like, when you're younger, you just don't know. You just don't know, and this is, like, a different topic, I'm sure, but, like, I
Mhm.
can relate to that, like, I just didn't grow up with my father. He passed away when I was little, but just me and my
Mhm.
mom is has always been the norm for me. Like I will never forget. It was like a Father's Day. Maybe we were like 11 or 12, but my one of my like closest friends, I don't remember like what was discussed, but she was like bawling crying. I remember looking at her, and she didn't grow up with her father, but he wasn't present, but like he's still, living. And so I think she just wanted to have a relationship with him. And I remember her just like crying. And I remember looking at her, I was like, what is she crying about? But like
Mhm.
for me, like now I'm older and I understand, like, yeah, of course I wish I would
Right.
have had my father to grow up with. And but at the time, I was like, that's all I knew was not having a father. And so
Exactly.
I think he passed when I was little, very little, less than two, probably. I might have been one. I just never knew. And I never had, like,
Mhm.
I just never had that. So I was looking at her like, why is she crying about this? But now I can look back and be like, I understand now. Because I think it's things that I'm
Right.
coming to terms with, like, that I have some problems because I didn't have a father, I'm sure, but not blaming it on that, but things that I just never cope with. But yeah, it's just as you get older, you start to see
Mhm.
more things. You understand like why we are the way that we are. So yeah, I could imagine like if I would have lost my father when I was like in high school or college, then that would have been
Mhm.
devastating. I don't know how I would handle that, but just because that's an unexpected thing, But I don't know how I would have handled that.
Mm.
So maybe that was God blocking me from something crazy, or like a life altering event,
Mhm.
as when I was in a younger age. But you're right. You can see your friends go through like things like that, divorce. Like for you, I'm sure you were older too, so you're more sympathetic. But imagine if you were like maybe in high school
Yeah.
and you're just like, this is normal. But
Mhm.
um yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that. But unexpected, I mean, like stuff like that.
As in like
It really does suck. But it really like it just brings things into perspective as well. Like we all go through different things at different times, and I suppose it's because you know it's to help each other. So I'm sure you could be there for your friend, because you're like, oh well, this is what it's been like for me
mm,
for the last 12 years. And so
mm,
it's like because you went through that, not in the same way, but you went through that, you can be there to support her. We go through different things in different seasons of life so that we can hopefully help somebody else go through it as well. Like learn from,
mm,
mistakes that we made or things just to help them cope through things as well.
to speak life and give
Yeah.
a hope in the season that they're in, because it's tough, and I think all these different things too, especially like a couple of these things, like some people experience, some people don't, but it makes you see that as humans, even though we have like our gripes, you can turn on the TV and everybody's against everybody, but when it really boils down to being a human, we have a lot of things in
Hmm.
common, a lot of same life events that
Yeah.
are happening to us, and this world is crazy as heck, but sometimes you gotta give people
Yeah, of
grace,
course.
like, not even sometimes, give people grace because you don't know what's going on, like, someone could have passed, like, show a little love in this world because our time ain't gonna
Mm-mm.
last here anyway.
And I know I'm guilty. Like, people on
So
the road, I know I'm guilty. I call people stupid and idiots like at least 15 times a day because that's how they drive. But you're right, though. It's like you really never know like why someone's driving crazy. Like they could be rushing to get somewhere. Um,
mhm,
thank you for that reminder. I'm gonna try to remember that because it's just like you're on the road, you're driving. It'll just piss you off in that moment, but my like it really should be like, Lord, I pray they get there. Like I try to say like after I call them a name, I'd be like, Lord, try to get them. I pray they get there safely. Like that's what it should be. Like just pray they get to where they're going safely because you don't know why they're behind the wheel driving like erratically. Like they really could be trying to get to somebody that
mhm,
is not gonna make it, or their kid is having problem in school and they're like freaking out. So you sometimes people just drive crazy just because
mm,
I believe that there are times that people just maybe are not in their right mind. Um, so you're right. We
mm,
really should give people more grace. It's just like I know it's like
yeah,
easier said than done, but it's just why can't we be nice? And this is the time of the year, it's Christmas time, it's the holidays, it's Christmas, it's Hanukkah, other holidays, Kwanzaa. whatever other holidays are going on too. But it's like the last month of the year, people are gonna be nice to each other, and then it's like January 1st. January may be nice too, and then mid-January, it's like, okay, we're back to it's like
Back at it again.
back to being mean and stuff like that. But I know like this is just how the world is, and it's just gonna keep spiraling. But there are enough of us in this world that can affect some change. We can be peacemakers, hopefully. But
Yeah, we're all going through a lot. We need to help each other
yeah, exactly.
get through it together.
Exactly. So yeah. Told you it's like this is not one of our most fun episodes, but
It's not. I guess something that we could do that would be maybe productive is maybe what are some ways to get through grief? I'm gonna Google this because I don't know. I'm putting the question on you, and I don't know answer myself. I mean, I remember taking. It sounds so terrible. I remember taking death and dying class in high school, and it was actually a really informative class because it really made you figure out how expensive your funeral was. I was like, at that point, toss me in the sea because it's just too expensive. But anyway, we learned about the stages of grief, and I was so pissed because I was like, "Are you for real? I'm dead. And this is the cost." I was like, "Who's paying
that's why you
it?
get life insurance.
Who's paying it?" But that's why you get life.
The good kind.
So someone in your family doesn't pay for
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean? But I was so irritated. Like, I remember the frustration from that side note of learning how expensive it was. I was like, how you mean to tell me it costs X amount of money for a casket? I'm dead. What's the point?
I
I'm
know.
dead. I'm not flying it like a
But
car.
I think it's
I'm
like
dead.
guess how much it costs to make them, or because they are kind of nice looking despite what they're for. But you're right. It is crazy. And it's like we always see those Colonial Penn commercials about life insurance. And it's like, oh, whatever. But nah, we all need it. It don't matter what age you are. We all need it. We all need to get life insurance. And something I learned too, and maybe they're trying to scam me. I don't pay that much for mine. But somebody told me what you get from your job is like never enough. Like you should pay for pay a little bit more for life insurance because you just never know. And it's not just, dying. You could get in a car accident. You could lose your job. It's just whatever unexpected life circumstances. And they always say the one you get at your job is not enough. So, get a little bit. Yeah.
Or get another one.
But I mean, I think things that helped me. So I was telling you at the beginning, I'll be quick with this, but I experienced the loss of a friend in high school when I was like 15. She was a teammate on my tennis team, but we were also like friends, just like outside of tennis as well. But having like our tennis team, that was like, I think just having community. Sometimes it's easy to want to be alone and just like kind of close up. But if you have people around you that also experience it, because like it wasn't just the tennis team, like she had other friends and it was just like she passed in a very tragic way. And that was my really first time. When you're younger, you hear people like, oh, so and so passed, or like we're at so and so's funeral, but it didn't really like click until that. And I think I was 15. Yeah. But I'm sure there's stuff in the article that will say like how like ways to cope, but it really was just being with my friends who also like knew her, and we could like talk about her and be like, these are happy memories that we had, but we also could cry together. And we also just like did things like we made like pins with her on it, or like we made like armbands. So it was just like ways that we could remember her. I think that helped a lot, and then her family did like a lot of stuff like even years after she passed. Like there's a memorial at one of the YMCA's here that I can go. Like, I haven't been there in probably 10 plus years. Like it's happened 15 years ago, but I haven't been there in probably 8+ years. But it's just somewhere you can go to be like, oh, we can come here and remember her. Because like every now and then, it's like it's easy to be like, time has passed. Like I'm sure her family, they remember her every day. But there will be like certain times that I'm like, she'll pop into my head, and I'm like, oh wow, like that happened 15 years ago. But it was just like a period of like this friend passed, my uncle passed, like my great uncle passed like not too long after her. Experienced another classmate before we all went to college, he passed away too. So it was just like, wow. So I think at a younger age, not, I'm sure there's people that experience is way younger, but like for me, I just never expected that. But I think just
Mm.
having like people around you that can also that have that are experiencing that with you, like the same thing, whether it's your family. Because I can even think of like funerals, funerals of like of my great uncle. We just like the funeral was sad, but the nights like around the funeral, it's like we're just having a good time. That's what they would have wanted.
Mhm.
That was my uncle Snooky. That
Right.
was his nickname, Uncle Snooky. But you're just like we're here
Huh.
playing like
Snooky.
Pacino, or we're like singing. We're in the hotel having a good time. Yeah, I know. It's a throwback.
Keno. Is that what they what's Bikino? Is that what they play in LA?
I don't.
Casino? Snooki.
It's like some game you play with like coins. I don't remember. I don't know how. I don't know how to play spades though, but I know how to play Pacino. But it was just like we had fun, like laughing and just having like a good time kind of thing. So
Yeah.
that's really how you can that's in my experience the ways that I've coped. And like
Yeah.
I guess like my nana passed during COVID, so we didn't I feel like if we were all together, she loved to dance and like loved music. I feel like if we were all together, it would have been like a celebration, like, we would have been laughing and singing and stuff. Because it's like what would the person want? They wouldn't want you to be like
Mm.
sad all the time.
Mhm. Yeah. I think something that helped me with the first time I experienced like a loss, it was my grandmother. And I was in middle school. My nana was my
Mm.
best friend.
Mm.
Like it still tears me up to this day. Her and my grandpa, when I think about them or they come to mind. But something that helped me during that time was writing it out. I
Mhm.
had a journal and just like writing it out. That really helped me a lot. And then yeah, sometimes just some good old fashioned
Yeah, of
crying.
course.
And and I just pray. I do a lot of praying. I'm like, Lord, like straight up, I'm like, I have these emotions right now that are so uncomfortable that
Mhm.
I don't even know what to do with it right now. Like I need you to help me with this because
Mhm.
I can't. And then sometimes like the Lord will literally, I think it goes back to like you're saying, like community, like will bring some people over or someone's reaching out to me like
Yeah.
simultaneously for
Mhm.
something. Or that's like if I'm going through like any kind of grief in a kind of season or job loss, whatever. God will like maybe send someone or like a word of encouragement out of the
Mhm.
blue from someone. And I feel like those are things that he does like to help me through that. But definitely writing it out, praying it out, and I always try to laugh. Like somehow, like laughter for me is always one of the best
Mm.
pieces of
Yes.
medicine. So, like even thinking about my grandmother, if we think back to some of the things that she would do, and it still makes me laugh to this day. Like, Nana, why are you stealing sugar at this restaurant and these salt and pepper packets? We have food at home. Like
That's an old people
we're
thing. I'm
okay.
like, yeah, you don't
Please
need
say
that
that.
equal. We got better things at home.
Why?
Yes.
Exactly. Why are we taking the equal and the Splenda? You don't
Right.
even drink coffee.
No. That's what it is. It's like if when you can
Uh,
but that's like you're saying, like we can remember like funny times. It's still like it doesn't,
mhm.
replace anything, but it's just like remembering those lighthearted times. We keep those like memories so that we can laugh. We can laugh. It's like maybe in the middle of your crying, you're like, "Oh man, remember when we were at IHOP and Nana took she took the Splenda and the thing it came in." It's just like we can laugh about
Oh my
that.
gosh. Yeah. And then I think maybe something that could be helpful to people too, like before whenever your loved ones go, or it's always just good in general to keep like maybe like a family album or something that
Mhm.
contains memories. Something that was we actually it was like a 2 3 years before my grandpa passed. I just decided to take a tape recorder over to his house
Oh,
and just ask him about like a
that's
lot of
sweet,
his
Kimmy.
memories because he was
Mhm.
in the Navy and maybe in World War II. And I was just asking him all like this insight because he mentioned it before. Not one of the funny. It wasn't funny, but it was like I was like, "Yeah, did you join?" He's like, "Yeah, I
Yeah,
joined."
right.
He's
It's
like, "I
like
got drafted." Like,
you
what?
no choice.
Like, right? 'Cause I was like,
Mm.
"Oh yeah, that was the draft back then." Um, or even we had another random story was we had a really really close friend of the family, and I was really close with the grandmother. Miss Clayton, and I actually interviewed her for a project for school. And it was kind of low key funny because I interviewed how she lived in the South and then she moved up north. And I was like, did they ever like call you any names? She was like, yeah, they call me this, and what they call us now? I was just like, oh my god.
To them, it's probably like,
I was like,
like
man.
let it be some
She's like,
Gen Z. Let it
like,
be
what
some
else
Gen
they?
Z.
And I was like, what else
Right.
they call us now?
Like that was unfortunately like their norm. You know. That's
I
funny though. She's
know.
like,
Like,
yeah, no, that's true though.
but it's always good to, keep those memories alive somehow too, and then you can pass them down to the
Yeah.
family so they can see what that person was like too. Because my mom has so many memories of, her side of the family that lives in California, and she always assumes that I know. But I was like, Mom, I was a kid, I have no idea these stories until you tell me. And I'm like, you guys did what? This was what? Or I like, because my mom has 3 brothers that live in California. They lived in Canada. And then, like, I just recently found out that a lot of them own their own businesses and a lot of them sing. And I was like, I wish
Yeah.
I would have known that because
Yeah,
I have those
exactly.
qualities. And it's weird and I'm like, wow, it's a
Yeah.
family thing, And that would have further confirmed some things for me. And I'd be like, maybe I'm just tripping.
That's crazy
Like,
though. Yeah,
yeah.
finding out family things is crazy. But no, you're right though. Yeah, my aunt, like, she is the family historian at this point. She just knows everything. She'd be like, yeah, so and so
Mhm.
is this and then so and da 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 da. It's like so many things. And don't let her get to drinking.
You better
Don't let
write
her
all
get to
that
drinking,
down.
because then she gonna tell everybody's business. But sometimes it is cool, like things that I never knew. But I do. So you were saying like keeping things. It is important. I know now this is like outdated, but my nana used to always like write me letters from when I was very little, and I still have her letters. Like that's
Mhm.
something I will always like keep, like letters and like birthday cards. And she'd be like, make sure you're being nice to your mom, because I was a very slick mouth child, and I still am a slick mouth adult. But she always like just be like, make sure you're being kind to your mom, things like that. But those are things I will always keep, just because like those are great memories, and that was just something that I always liked or appreciated my nana did, was just like write me all the time, because yeah, it's not, people don't do that anymore.
Mm.
Let's bring writing letters back, people. Bring it back.
Yeah, I'm with it.
Okay, we're gonna all find pen pals.
Well, I know, right? Maybe I should wrap this up with a tiny prayer because maybe someone found this podcast who's grieving right now or going through
Mm-hmm.
some like a tough season right now of something
Yes.
unexpected. Um, Lord, we thank you for this time for, us to just talk about what life is like in the season right now. Anyone needs encouragement, anyone who needs to be fulfilled by you, anyone who's going through just such agonizing grief that they don't know what to do. I pray that you just come in with provision. I pray that you come in with your spirit, and I pray that you provide in ways that they couldn't even see in front of themselves once more, God. And I pray that you give them strength and that you give them comfort and that they're able to see that there is light, that this is just a season. Lord, help them during the time of patience and seasons, Lord. But we know that you have something better on the end and that you orchestrate things for your good somehow, even though we don't understand sometimes. We just pray for them to feel your love, and we pray for them to see your hope. In your name we pray,
Amen.
Jesus. Amen.
Good prayer, Kemi. Thank you.
Thanks. And thank you all for listening. We hope you guys have a great day. Please make sure to, if you have any questions about or anything else you want us to discuss on After the Degree on our podcast, make sure to send us an email at yawsomepodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on our Instagrams, Yawsome Podcast, on the Instagram, the TikTok, and our Facebook. And we will see you in the
See
next
you.
one. Bye.
The devil did not want you to pray, because you froze for a second. I was like, ooh, but it came back.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and listening to the latest episode of Your Advisors Will See You Now. Please make sure to follow us on all of our social media pages and check out our website. Take a look at the show notes below.
And please make sure to subscribe and share this podcast. Also, show us some love and please leave a 5-star review. Catch you next time.
See ya.